Right, we are back with another episode of Red Tinted Glasses and another club game to look forward to. We're approaching the international break and split, but Callum, it's Hamilton up first this weekend.
Yes, I'm so excited about the Hamilton game, but before we go any further, thank you very much for anyone that's tuned in to the Steve Tosh podcast. We hope you enjoyed it, a lot of good feedback, and we're nearing in on 300 subscribers now at time of recording. So if you do want to see me suffer post-split, we're thinking possibly the Hibs game for our watch-along. We'll get Michael on. It'll be a good laugh. If you want to see that, make sure you subscribe on YouTube. But you can follow us elsewhere. And speaking of going elsewhere, people have been going back and listening to the Richie Byrne podcast as well, going by our anchor statistics. So don't forget, you can check all those out as well while you're at it if you want some more Don's content for you.
Yeah, no, definitely agree with that. I think folk are taking advantage of being able to watch you suffer, and Michael's definitely keen for a watch along post split. So if we do hit that 300 mark on YouTube, we'll get that sorted with Michael, and he's a popular guest on the show. The stats back that up, and the Hibs fans seem to enjoy his opinions as well, and rightfully so. You know, you're right. The previous content, Richie's interviews peaked again the last couple of days, but we've got Harold Stavrum, Jamie Smith, obviously Jack Grimmer, which we've promoted well and truly, and a big fan of the show and regular listener, but also other previews and previous content that we've tried to put out, like picking our best Derek McInnes 11, which is still an idea. We're going to try and explore our worst McInnes, Calderwood, McGee 11. Mm-hmm. Jack, don't worry, you won't feature in that. No. Just in case you're wondering. That's maybe something we can fill in the international break. And obviously, there are Scotland fans that tune into us as well. We will probably do a review of the international break instead of a preview. I think it'll be a bit better just rounding up the first World Cup qualifiers there. Mm-hmm. Let's get back to club football in the time being, though. As ever, an exciting clash awaits against Hamilton, Calum.
Yeah, it's not got the marks for a thriller, does it? But after we've picked up 4 points in the last 6, and they've picked up 6, so they're the form team going at this. Thanks, Pine Bovril, for that statistic after they put us on the board at that time. We're on worse form than Hamilton, Glenn. It's not good. It's not good.
Yeah, I know. Shout out to Pine Bovril, like you said there. Totally forgetting to put us on the form table. I mean, I know it's been a bad watch, but not that bad, surely. But this is, as I said to you before we recorded it, it's the race for third versus the race to survive. Mm-hmm. The perennial, and I hope they don't mind me saying, the jobby that won't go away, Hamilton. They know how to stay up in the division. It'll be an interesting battle on Saturday, but one key miss, I think, for this game will certainly be Bruce Anderson's absence for Hamilton.
Definitely, he's been on good form for them. Got another assist last night off Ross Callahan's absolute peach into the top corner against St Johnstone. So it's good that Hamilton won't be able to play Bruce Anderson, and that's just typical that he's gone there, been on good form. And okay, you could say he's gone into a poor Hamilton side, but as the stats show, they're in better form than us.
Yeah, and it's great to see from an Aberdeen point of view a striker scoring goals in general, actually, because that's something that we're lacking right now. But an absolute worldie from Ross Callahan last night. And as Jamie Beatson of We Are Perth said, it's like, why has he suddenly turned into Lionel Messi in recent weeks? But to use that Barcelona reference, Hamilton seemed to just turn into Barcelona when they play Motherwell. That's their 2 victories in their last 10 have come against. Absolutely breezed past them in both games. Their last 5 games away from home has only seen them win once, drawn once, and 3 defeats in there. If we look on Aberdeen's side of things, we've had 2 wins in our last 10. Both those wins, though, coming against basement kind of teams, your Motherwells and Kilmarnock, who are just sitting above Hamilton on goal difference. So could we take stock of that we're playing a team again down the bottom and try and build on that?
Yeah, maybe some small encouragement that we might be able to grind out and win by a goal or two, if that. But I mean, Hamilton I've seen the highlights recently. They're playing with a team with a bit of confidence, And before the red card against Hibs, they looked okay as well. And probably disappointed to not hold on for a win against St Johnstone the other night too, especially given a St Johnstone side probably still hungover after winning the Betfred Cup.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think though watching the highlights of that game, though, St Johnstone definitely dominated the ball. I know Brian Rice was unhappy with the equaliser and suspicions of offside, but Hamilton just have this knack, especially at home, of disrupting teams and getting a goal, albeit there's nothing you can do about Callahan's goal that he scored. But one thing I think we should be encouraged about going into this game, despite our lack of goals or threat up top, is the fact that we've got a good record at home so far this calendar year. Only Livingston, which was just a total shambles defensively, and Rangers have scored at Pittodrie. Obviously, our last two wins at Pittodrie was with clean sheets over Motherwell and Kilmarnock, like we've said.
Yeah, that is encouraging. That we look a bit better at the back. It's just unfortunate at the opposite end. It's just got worse rather than better. So it could just be in for a 0-0, and we'll be buzzing about that.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be an instant reaction to that if that's the case.
No.
There was like a sense of apathy at full time on Saturday after another defeat to Celtic. You know, not the anger. It's just, you know, like we said, we're kind of going through the motions towards the end of the season. But do you think there's a bit of apathy from the sport going into this game?
Yeah, I think a lot of people probably struggling to get up for this one. Tune in and see what happens, I suppose. I'll pay attention.
Selling it well.
I know. I'm not doing the pay-per-view any favours here. But it's just that word apathy again. I didn't know what it meant at the start of the season. Well and truly aware of what it means now.
Definitely, but it's a big game in the sense of our third place ambitions, given that Hibs travel to Perth to face the League Cup winners in St Johnstone. You said, you know, they might have suffered a bit of a hangover on Wednesday, but still ground out a point. They might take confidence from that, obviously their cup success. So we should surely be looking at this game as a chance to gain ground on Hibs.
It's a must win, let's be honest. But for them, they're probably looking at it as well, saying this is an out of form Aberdeen side. We can go and upset them perhaps. But if we really need to pick up 3 points now before we go into this split, get a win on our belts, and hopefully a good performance as well, maybe even some entertaining football, God forbid.
Don't ask for too much, just a few goals would be nice. But, you know, oddly, me and you were trying to understand why. We're not sure, but we have a week off after this game, before the last game, before the split against Dundee United, like you said. You've said there it's kind of must win. I do echo those sentiments, but Willie Miller was out in his column in the Evening Express this week saying it's a 6. We need 6 out of 6 from our next 2 games to have any chance of finishing third. Do you kind of agree with that sentiment?
I would agree with that, and it's a good chance for the 2 games. You look at them on paper, it's a good chance for 6 points, but we have set out these sort of point targets before on this show, which we haven't met. But I do agree with Willie Miller there in that it's a good chance for the 6 points as well, as we kind of do need them. Definitely,
and I think, you know, if we can get a few goals in this game on Saturday and get some confidence throughout the whole team and a performance to match. I know we said we don't want to ask for too much because Christ might be blown away by something on the pitch, but looking up top where we're looking for goals, Fraser Hornby's injury's not been as bad as first feared, so we may see him again before the season's out, but this has got to be the ideal game for Flo Canberra to finally break his duck for Aberdeen, doesn't it?
I think not only this game, but as mentioned before, the Dundee United game as well. That is a decent chance for to maybe by a couple of goals, get into a bit of form before the split would be nice. And fingers crossed, because he has looked pretty decent. His spells looked confident in his plays, link-up plays been good, and not been shy to have a pop at goal. So if we could see him bag out 1 or 2, that would be wonderful, not only for possible points tally, but for him as well, maybe get him firing ahead of the split.
Yeah, absolutely. We need confidence kind of in our strikers and throughout the team as well, because we're just lacking that bit of bite and cutting edge. Ironically, what people said after listening to Steve Tosh, that sort of character in the team is something that we're lacking in the current team.
Definitely.
And Dean Campbell came out and said this week that the team as a whole need to work as a collective group to produce goals. We can't just rely on the strikers. We've seen that certainly this season, that we can't rely on our strikers to score goals. Lewis Ferguson's still our top scorer with 9 goals. I'd have loved to see how many of them were penalties. So, we saw in the game against Kilmarnock, the link-up play, we touched on that in the Celtic build-up from Ferguson and Canberra. Dean's getting a regular run-out now. McCrory's been there influencing the midfield as well. Can we see on Saturday these sort of players linking up with Canberra and producing something?
I hope so. I think we're probably definitely looking at Ferguson first and foremost to sort of get a break from midfield, get up and join the attacks. But we have seen Campbell getting a lot more confident and seem to be a bit more brave on the ball, making forward runs as well. So that is encouraging, and hopefully he can carry that on, because Lord knows we do need something like that. And also some decent Niall McGinn set pieces would be nice if he's going to be taking them. But after one against Celtic, I'm not sure if he'll be allowed.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my next point. It's actually the midfield creativity that we need, and it's the balls into the box need to be of a good quality. Beating the first man at your free kicks.
Get the ball off the ground would be nice.
Yeah, but even corners, let's not just sit and rely on an Ash Taylor long throw. We need constant quality, getting the balls into dangerous areas. But Niall McGinn and Dean Campbell in previous weeks did that at Parkhead, but there was no anticipation to get on the end of that. I'm thinking back to the McGinn cross that kind of followed up his poor effort at Parkhead. So hopefully that's being worked on at Cormac Park this week.
We've got plenty of time, if not this week, before the next game anyway.
But looking from how we lined up against Celtic, obviously McGinn and Hendry didn't feature. Do you think we'll maybe have a few changes going into this weekend, or do you see just us naming an unchanged 11 again?
Hopefully, I would like to see Hendry up there alongside Canberra. So say Hendry did come on and score, but then sort of dropped the pitch again. I think it would be good to see if they can maybe strike up some sort of partnership, because God knows we need something to work, and if that could stick, that would be nice. Just something not anonymous or a foul from Callum Hendry would be nice.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think I'm not sure if we would work how that formation would work if Callum Hendry's playing off Canberra or vice versa. But we need somebody else to help create for Canberra, because certainly at the weekend past there was too much of a gap between the midfield. We spoke about this previously with Watkins when Hedges wasn't in the team. The gap between midfield and striker was almost too big, that any time the ball got up to the lone striker, there was no support around him. So we certainly need that. I'd like to see Conor McLennan feature some more again. We've seen his work certainly going forward. He seems to be doing a decent job defensively in that wing back role. And it's just encouraging to see the young players get these minutes. We know what they can do, and the only way they learn and improve, as you've been an advocate of, is actually playing them.
Exactly. I think at times even myself being a bit critical of Conor McLennan, maybe his final ball not quite there, but at the same time, he's 21 years old. The only way that sort of consistency is going to come is with getting regular chances and learning from mistakes. So I'd like to see him in from the start again between now and the end of the season, really, I suppose. Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see. I personally, I don't think McInnes will make any changes. Depends if the tombola is working or not. But if it is working, I could see Niall McGinn coming in just for that bit of quality, hopefully, in terms of set pieces, given what happened in the last home game. But it just remains to be seen. We're just lacking that spark ever since Hedges got injured.
And that other one left.
Yeah, I wasn't going to even mention that. as we've said, Hamilton will be coming up here in better form over the last 6 games than us, albeit their away form hasn't been great. Bruce Anderson, as we've discussed, has kind of had a new lease of life under Brian Rice. That really will be a big blow for them.
I think he's mentioned that this is Brian Rice sort of made him feel wanted, but we're in a bad position when we as Aberdeen fans are glad that Bruce Anderson will not be eligible to play against us. That's sort of the level we're at. A scathing indictment of our season, I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it just really does sum up where we are just now. But it's, like I said, it is encouraging to see a young player getting minutes and proving their worth on the pitch. But Mark Kerr will be pulling his hair out, or what he has left of it anyway, losing his job as Ayr manager, signing Bruce Anderson as to be his main striker, and he couldn't score a league goal for Ayr, but yeah, it's banging them in and pulling assists left, right and centre for Hamilton. That means we've spoken to Ben from the Only Aki's podcast. Unfortunately, he couldn't join us on the show today, but he's said it's fairly obvious Bruce will be a big miss, but it then leaves them going with David Moyo and Andy Winter up top. For those of you that have watched the highlights of Hamilton's game last night, you'll see David Moyo smacking the bar at 1-0 for Hamilton, but he's a bit of a handful.
Yeah, and they'll have points to prove as well, given this little lads come in from Aberdeen and keeping them out of the team and performing well. So they've got points to prove against us, and they know we've looked a bit better defensively, but we can be fragile at times, so they can ruffle feathers definitely and cause problems, and they've got points to prove. So a bit worried, more worried than we should be.
They've got not only points to prove, but points to fight for. There's a big game going on in Dingwall at the weekend, Ross County Kilmarnock, which I'm sure Hamilton will have an eye on the result of that. That's a big relegation 6-pointer, and they'll feel if they can grab something from the game, they'll be well in the hunt to stay up again. Injury concerns from Hamilton. Ben's told me that Jamie Hamilton, who loves a card, has a slight ankle injury, but feels he should be fit to take his place back in the team. We know he brings a bit of hard tackling and a bit of bite to the Hamilton midfield, as we obviously saw with a harsh red card against Hibs.
I'd say harsh, yeah. He brings a bit of the Steve Tosh to them, to be honest. Probably wouldn't mind me saying that, in honesty, but yeah, it's sort of that sort of bite in the midfield. Maybe not to the extent he was going against Hibs, but I'd say probably a bit harsh. That's sort of what we've been lacking, almost to an extent. So if he can come in, ruffle some feathers again, I'm using those words, you never know what could happen.
Yeah, and Ben's hoping that if Hamilton's fit, it will also allow Odofin to move into the midfield where he feels he is in his most effective position, allowing kind of to pull the strings for the Hamilton team. So, we've seen how much of a threat he is at set pieces and how much of a threat Hamilton can pose at set pieces. So it'll be good if we can just kind of keep those kind of key players for Hamilton quiet. We really need to kind of set the tempo, I feel, in this game on Saturday. We can't let Hamilton grow in confidence. We need to set our stalls out early on, get in their faces. Is that something you'd kind of agree on?
I definitely agree with that sort of high intensity. I was actually thinking about that watching some of the Rangers game the other night. I know Rangers bad, but I was watching it sort of enviously, and when they were at 0-0, obviously at 0-0 until about the 87th minute or something like that, you've got Alan McGregor. Every single time he gets the ball or goes out for a goal kick, he's rushing, urgency, get the ball moving again, unsettle them, get it going. I was thinking, when was the last time we saw Joe Lewis like that, or for anyone for that matter, say from a throw-in or whatever? That's just, and it sounds like something so little, but it's the little things that add up, and that's probably why they are where they are, those kind of things. And I would just like to see a bit of that, a little bit more intensity, a little bit more urgency. And if you're not going to listen to my nonsense about them, back in the 80s, Ferguson, they always used to say, even when you're at Ibrox or Celtic Park, if it goes out for a throw-in, get it back on, get playing, urgency quickly, and not unsettle them, because they'll think, bloody hell, usually folk come and waste time. and they're looking a bit up for it. If we could just be a bit more intense, I would be happy. It sounds like something so small, but I'm wanting it. I want to see Joe Lewis getting the ball out from the back nice and quickly. Urgency is not his strong point, but fingers crossed.
No, I definitely agree, because, like I said, when I was watching the highlights of last night's game, just to kind of see what Hamilton were up to in the game, St Johnstone had the ball down, pigging it about, getting in behind, and generally causing problems. And that's something we know this team is capable of doing. We've just not seen it often enough in kind of the second half of the season. And if we can get that, as you say, high intensity, urgency constantly throughout, just get Hamilton unsettled, because we've all seen it on a cold Tuesday night at Pittodrie. I think it was last season, possibly the season before, when Hamilton came up here and actually won the game, sat in, frustrated us. George Oakley hit that Van Basten-esque goal. You know, Hamilton, they cause us problems regularly up here or down there. So we need to get at them from the off, get ideally an early goal, and then, you know, keep the foot on the throat, you know. We've
seen it too many times against this so-called lesser opposition. We let them get set up, then we have to try and break them down because we're too slow in getting it forward. There's no urgency whatsoever. And then once we try and break someone down, it's so painful to watch. So if we can get, as you say, on the front foot, have a go at them early on, urgency, unsettle them, don't let them sort of get their foot on, get a foothold in the game, then we might have a chance against Hamilton. There we are.
Yeah. Positive indictment as ever. And I think set pieces will be key to this game. You know, we know our quality around that has been distinctively lacking this season, albeit I know we did score from one against Kilmarnock. But equally, Hamilton will pose threats from that. They have height throughout their team. Let's hope that we can defend the set pieces better, but also attack them better and utilise something that should be a key asset for our attacking arsenal, really.
Yeah, it's not something that we've just been saying. I'm saying not just me and you, but as fans in general, but even in sort of Red TV commentary, the pundits they've had on that kind of thing, they've been saying, look at the height that's in that Aberdeen team. They need to be taking advantage of them more often. And it's something we've not seen, but if we could, and it's, even when we did score for one, it wasn't even one of the huge boys in there that scored. It's Calum Hendry. I don't think he's even 6 foot, so... Yeah,
and Gary Dicker just totally lost him, so kind of got away with some poor defending there. Yeah, it'll be interesting, but I'm feeling confident that we'll be coming away from the game with 3 points, despite how I've kind of approached it in this little preview for you all. Care to put a prediction on the game, Calum?
A prediction, 1-0 us. I think I'm confident that we will get a win. I'm not confident that I'll be entertained. What about you?
It's funny that prediction is the second 1-0 I've heard, and we've got one at work. We do a little prediction league on the Aberdeen games. I'm gonna go the same prediction. I'll be submitting to that, and I think we're gonna get plenty of goals. I'll say 3-0.
Are you feeling okay?
I really don't know what it is. I don't know if I've drank enough today. I'm getting a bit disillusioned, but I think if we can get an early goal and get at Hamilton, I kind of think that'll get us playing with a bit of confidence. And I just hope that, you know, we don't just sit on our laurels. If it is 1-0, you know, a classic let's see out a 1-0 under McInnes that we've seen before. We've heard it from certain players in co-coms. Let's just keep going. Goals breed confidence, so that's what I want to see.
Sorry, I took a drink at a terrible time there. I hope you tried that at home. Anyone listening was like, what's going on here? It's absolutely silence.
That's a very awkward pause.
Yeah. I admire your confidence, Glenn. I don't share it, but I admire it. I can respect it.
Well, you'll need to tune in for our review of the game to see if my confidence was merited or if Callum's cautious optimism was the correct approach.
And to do so, make sure to subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss it, and follow us wherever you're listening in, and on Twitter too, at RTG_podcast. I remembered it for once. Thanks very much for tuning in, everybody.